This is mill lesson 4. In this mill lesson, we are going to, we're still going to drill, we're going to draw, we're going to drill, and we're going to contour. So we're going to create a contour toolpath with an end mill. We'll talk about lead in, lead out, all that good stuff. We'll kind of follow through the book. We need to draw this part out right here. Let's take a gander and see what it has us. So it's having us do the square, then it's having us. We're doing 2 squares or offset. Create the inside entities. Okay, so we're doing 2 rectangles. We'll throw the fillets in there. That's about it. So pretty basic drawing, pretty simple. I'm just gonna pull this up here. Let me see that okay? Can't see it? Use yours. You should have the book by now. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna draw this. I'm gonna do a 3x3 square. Then I'm gonna do a 2.5 by 2.5 square. When I do that, I'm gonna anchor to the center. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna throw the 1/4 inch fillets around the outside. It shows circles here. It shows circles here, but there technically are no circles on the drawing, and we'll talk about that when we get to that point there. So in my instance of Mastercam, I'm going to my wireframe tab. I'm going to go rectangle. Over here, I'm just going to type in 3 tab 3, enter. I want to make sure I anchor it to center and hover over the origin. Click. I want to press the blue OK, create new operations next, and I'll go through the same process, except I'll do 2.5, tab 2.5, enter. It's already anchored to center. Hover over the origin, click. Green, OK. I'm going to go and save this right off the bat. File. Don't wait till the last minute to save. That's how you crash. So this is mill lesson 4. That's not an M. That's much better. Next, jumping back to my picture here, we want to throw 1/8 inch. Well, that's an 1/8 inch diameter. I take that back. Yeah, it's still 1/8 inch fillet. We're going to throw an 1/8 inch radial fillet in the corners. So we'll come back here. I'm still on my wireframe tab. I'm going to go all the way to the right where it says fillet. Left click fillet. I'm going to punch my radius in there right away, 0.125. And then I just grab my corners. Okay. Save. Anybody have any questions on that? Everybody good there? So jumping back here, I know a couple of you drew the side view. You don't need to draw the side view. You don't need to extrude. When you guys are doing it, all we're doing is a top view. And we're programming off of that top view in here. That's all we're doing, basic 2D programming. But looking here, I want to kind of see what's going on because I'm going to create my stock boundary next. So I kind of want to see what's happening here. I'm going to actually machine down an 1/8 inch deep for that step. So my overall thickness is a 1/4 inch deep. So when I create my stock boundary, I'm going to make that to a 1/4 inch. That's kind of what I'm gandering at here. So we'll jump back in the Mastercam here. First I need to do is pick a machine. I'll just pick mill default. Once I have mill default selected, I'm going to go next to properties. I'm going to expand that gallery by hitting the plus sign. We're going to start out in files. In the files tab, if I want to put a program number right away, I can. I don't have to. I can leave it 0, but I can if I really want to. I'm not going to. This sequence number down here, you can have Mastercam post with or without sequence numbers. And when it posts with it, it's on every single line. You can give it a start, you can give it an increment, stuff like that. So that's what that is. If we come to master model, nothing I need to do in there. The third tab down, this is stock setup. I want to go in there right now. When I'm in here, I'm going to the 1, 2, 3, 4th box from the left. If I hover over it, it says add from bounding box. Looking at this page now, well, I got to decide, where's my 0 going to be? Looking here, I'm going to put my 0 top of the part. It's going to be dead center. So I'm going to first click all shown. I'll click all shown. And what that does is selects everything on your screen. You guys hang on right there 1 second. I want to show you an example. If per se, I had some dimensions on there, like that, that'll work. And I come in here and I do my stock setup, and I go into my bounding box and I go all shown. It will encompass your dimensions. You only want the wireframe shown or the geometry shown that you are going to use. So you don't want to have all of this stuff out here. It'll cause you errors. You can manually, if I left that in there, go back into my stock setup, go bounding box, I can manually select what I want. I press the arrow there, then I can just come in and select those 4. That's fine. It's a little bit more time involved, but you can do it that way. So I manually selected there. That gave me the 3 by 3. I already had my origin at the top, and all I got to do is put in a thickness, 0.25. Enter. You see it pushed it down. I don't know, somebody had something where like things were drawn on different levels and all sorts of stuff, different Z heights and all that stuff. So I don't know, there's some weird stuff there. Once I have this populated, I just hit OK. I shouldn't need to do anything in here. This should be the same numbers there. I could tweak my height a little bit. I could tweak my length a little bit, but I'm not going to. So we'll just get out of there. I'm going to go into Tools tab over here. Left click that. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to go assign tool number sequentially and warn of duplicate tool numbers as well. Okay. When I do that, you don't see my bounding box is not shown. I need to go into my toolpath tab and go stock display. And like I said, I can shade it if you choose to. I like to have the stock display on that I can kind of see what's going on there. I get a general idea. Especially if I'm going through the part, I can kind of see what's happening. So I find that nicer. I don't like the shading myself. All good? Everybody good there? Anybody not good? Thumbs up. I like it. Save. Well, let's jump back to the book here. They're having you change the material. Like I said, I'm not worried about the material. We're not gonna fight on feeds and speeds. I'm not overly worried about that. This is your step-by-step on, setting up your stock boundaries. So everything's right there. What do we got over here? They're doing a sign warn. That's fine. Turning the display on. That's fine. We're good there. We got all that. That's all good stuff. So we're going to drill the 4 1/8-inch diameter holes first off. In this case here, they're doing it a little awkwardly. What they're using is an 1/8-inch end mill just for drilling. They're just going to plunge in there with an 1/8-inch end mill. I personally would never do that. Maybe if you have limited tooling, it's, what you got to do, whatever. When using a drill and a spot drill, how deep should I spot drill? Well, it kind of depends on the situation. If I'm using a spot drill to create a chamfer, I want a spot drill deep enough to create a chamfer, right? It's just spot drilling 15 to 30 thousandths into a part is not gonna be sufficient enough for that drill to follow that point and get down in there, unless you're really kind of, being very, very gentle with it. And it's just, that's a time suck. So. I know there were a couple of issues there where people, or if I got a 1/4 inch diameter hole and I wanna use a spot drill to chamfer that, is a 1/4 inch diameter spot drill gonna give me the chamfer necessary? I need to go larger, right? I gotta go larger than whatever my chamfer call out's gonna be. If I got a 1/4 inch diameter hole, I want a spot drill to minimum probably 281. So 3/8 would work just fine, just to let you know, so. You gotta kind of keep things like that in mind when you're selecting tools. And I mean, yes, it's just a class. No, we're not out there machining, but I'm trying to get you in a frame of mind. Hey, if I'm setting this up to machine that part, I wanna make sure I'm doing it right. Okay? I'll tell you straight out, when I was in the industry, I never used spot drill for a chamfer, period. Just a waste. I had a chamfer tool, I'd go in there and I'd spin all my chamfers. Ideally, that's what I did in the shop. We're not doing that here. We're gonna use a spot drill for the chamfers the majority of the time. We'll probably even use a spot drill when it comes to chamfering on the outside when that time comes. And I've done that a lot myself. What was your question?
What about a blind hole where you need a flat bottom
What about it?
for using an end mill to,
Well, yeah, this isn't a flat bottom.
that is true.
So they're having us use, I should say, a 1/8 inch end mill to create these holes. We're gonna create 4 holes. They're going through the drill path. I just wanna see if they show us anything new in the tool path hole selection. It does not appear to, so. So we're gonna come back in here. I don't need to expand this. I can use this drill right there. It's the exact same thing. The mill drill and the hole making drill, it's the exact same file. So it doesn't really matter which one you select. But Brad, I don't have any holes. I don't need holes. I have radii there. If I hover over the center of that, the theoretical center point of that arc right there, that gives me the point. That's where these holes are going. It's going to the center point of that arc. Pick those 4 points. Okay. I'm gonna go into tool. I can come down here, bottom left click, select library tool, or right click in the screen, select library tool, whatever is easiest for you. I have a filter on, so I got to make a few modifications in my filter. I'll leave that on there for now. I'm going to go 0.125 there, so I don't have to search all my end mills. Select end mills, go okay. It's only going to show me an 1/8 inch end mill. And I don't remember what it said in the thing, like 185 or something, I think is what it was in the tool list. Here it's automatically going to come up as 1 since we change that to tool numbers, select tool number sequentially. For feeds and speeds, we're figuring aluminum, right? So we'll go 250 SFM. And we're going to slow that speed down. Go 3,600 RPM. That's going to kick us back down. That's fine. Let's see what that looks like. So I'll go 3,600 RPM, 2,000 feet per tooth. Gives me about 28 inches a minute, somewhere in there. I'm good enough with that. I can live with that. That's about something I'd run. We're going to skip holder. I don't need to do anything with the holder. We're going to skip stock. We're going to go straight to cut parameters. I'm using an end mill here. Do I just want to ram that sucker into the hole? Yeah, it's only a 1/4 inch deep, but it's only an 1/8 inch end mill. So I'm going to peck this. I'll go ahead and peck drill it. I don't know what the book tells you in here. I don't care. I'm just going to kind of use more real world stuff. Well, real world, I wouldn't do it this way. How about that? I'll peck it at, we'll go 50 thousandths. I should probably slow my feed rate down now that I think about it. Yeah, we'll be okay. We're spinning her pretty good. We're going to go straight down to linking parameters. I can skip tool axis control limits and hole segments. There's nothing there for me to do here. I'm gonna go straight to linking parameters. I can run a clearance if I want. I'll throw a clearance on. I'll throw a clearance at 1 inch. I'm gonna use a clearance only at start and end of operation. You see here, when everything came up, it's all incremental. That is a default. We can go in, you can get in the background, master cam, and you can change that so you have what you want coming in all the time. Incremental is good, but incremental can be dangerous, okay? Incremental is if I'm here and I want to move 1 inch down, I move 1 inch down from here, not from my absolute position wherever I'm at. So if my absolute position is up here and I'm already down here and I want to go -1 inch, it's not moving -1 inch from here, it's moving -1 inch from here. So I could cause issues. So I like to run everything absolute. I'm going to kick everything over to absolute. There will be times when we do run incremental, but right now I'm going to do absolute. I have a retract 0.100. That's kind of a standard. And then my depth is going to be minus 0.25. And being an end mill, I can do a tip comp. Or I can, in this case, I could just add on right away because you figure it's a flat bottom. So if I want to add on minus 25, that's fine. I'm just going to throw a 25 in there. And as I stated, you don't need to go any more than 25. Anything more than 25 is a waste of time. I've seen some people do 35 trying to be special, whatever. It's just a waste of time. So just to give you a heads up, 25, even 10,000 is really sufficient. I like to just push it an extra 15. We're going to go into the coolant. Turn our flood on. I want to jump back up in the linking parameters here. Here you can kind of see everything. So this is showing you all of what we're doing. If I come from the front view there, I can see that I'm getting through. This is my retract here. This is my clearance there. So you can kind of see everything that's going on there. Hit OK. Boom. I can rotate it around if I do an Alt F2 or Alt 2, I should say. That'll give me a front view. I can see here's my clearance. I don't even really need I don't need a clearance. I'll leave it on there just for grins and giggles. I'm getting all the way through the part. Go back to Alt F1. If you're jumping around planes like I am, Alt F2, when I do that, pay attention down there. My C plane and my T plane show front view. If I were just to rotate this around and start machining again, look at my grid in the center there. It is perpendicular. It's going to want to come from this face here versus from the top. So before you start programming, make sure your construction plane and your tool plane are both set at top. So if I want to back plot it, I can single stepper through and see what's happening. You can see all the pecs. Technically, I'm doing about 2 pecs before it hits. So maybe I'd want to drop my retract a little bit. But I'm not pecking from 1 inch up in the air. So that looks okay there. I'm going to go ahead and verify this right off the bat. Why wouldn't I? Has anybody watched the videos from last week? Does this show up on the video?
Black box.
I just noticed that. I was wondering if that would show up or not.
That's why,
Okay.
that's why it says that please move it to this is blocks whatever behind it. But right now.
I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. I'm going to open up share again. And I'm just worried. See, yeah, I think it gives me the option. It's right there. I'm just worried if I close that window out, if it'll show or not. I'm not 100% sure. So I have it there. We'll see. For those of you in class, at least can see it. At home, maybe you can't. I turn my axes off. Sometimes I'll turn my wireframe off. Over in the tool components tab over here, I turn my holder off. I don't need to see my holder. Then I'm going to go up to my verify tab. I'm going to hit color loop right away. Once I do this, even though I'm coming down doing high precision, even though I'm only doing 1 tool right now, it's only going to be 1 color. But when I close this and open it up with other tools, it will show me the other tools. It will show me the colors. So If I come through and I give her a peck, it's starting out okay, I'll just hit play. You can see I am there, I am through, it's all good. I'm gonna try to just minimize this and see if I can, if I open it up again, what'll happen. So maybe if I do that, you'll be able to see it on the video. So there we go. We have that, those 4 holes drilled. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of using the end mill like that. I personally would never use the end mill like that. But I don't have a chamfered hole on there either now, so that's kind of, well, we're gonna come back. I'm gonna show you something that's not in the book. How about that? Wrong button. This one. Go like that. Everybody good? You'll file safe. Next, well, they're doing a drill counter bore. They're running quite a bit slower than me too. They did change everything absolute. Next, what we're gonna do is we're gonna machine the contour, also known as profile the outside, whatever you want to call it, okay? We're gonna machine contour the outside. So this is, if you're following along in your book, I'm on page 132. I don't know what the digital book comes by. And we're gonna talk about that. I just want to see what they're gonna use for an end mill here. Using a 1/2 inch flat end mill. So that way I don't have to jump back in there. So we just want to machine profile this outside here. So we need to determine what size end mill to use. A 1/2 inch should be good enough. I don't know. Is it going to be good enough to clip these corners? Well, if I want to do a quick double check on that, let me see if I can do a line from there to the midpoint there. Then I can do a drafting parallel line. Go back in, I selected it badly. So 405, so yes, a 1/2 inch end mill will encompass that corner. I just want to take a quick gander to do that. But I think what I'm going to do is I might use a smaller end mill and show you something different. How about that? So we're going to go into toolpaths. In toolpaths, I want to hit the contour. When I do that, I get this window up. This is my wireframe chaining window. Looking here, this shows wireframe. I can go to solids. I got options there. I can do settings. I'm just going to leave it as wireframe. Here I have C-plane as construction plane or 3D. This doesn't matter for what I'm doing here. I only have a 2D drawing. So realistically, in this case, it doesn't matter. But if I had a 3D drawing where I copied or translated the base down here and joined it all together, then it would matter. In fact, I'll show you that real quick so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You don't have to follow me on this. I'm just going to do it here real quick. I'm going to do a translate. I'm going to select these 4 wall lines. Go enter. I'm going to push that down. Actually, I'm just going to move that. Minus 0.125. Move. So that pushed that down. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. If I were to draw this actual 3D, it's kind of what it would look like. Like that, and then one more time. Good. So now this would be drawn representative of the actual part, right? So if I had a 3D drawing like this, it will cause me issues when I go to chain it. So if I go contour and I leave it 3D and I select this line, what it's going to do is it's going to get to the next line and it may want to go down because it doesn't know if we're doing 2D or 3D. We're gonna see that in the future. I'm giving you a little view ahead to the future stuff. So if you're ever in a situation like that, we'd want to leave that as C-plane. So then when I chain, it would actually go around. But as I stated right now, for what we're doing, it does not matter. And I'll go back to where we are, right like that. So contour, C-plane, typically, if you're just doing 2D work, I want to select this line. I can select any line. I can select the arc. It doesn't matter. I think in the book, they're having us select that top line. Yeah, they're selecting that line. Wherever I select that line, if I select it to the left of center, it's going to start about this point. If I select it to the right of center, it'll start about this point, depending on what I have set in there. I'm going to select it to the left of center. I want to see my arrow start from that direction. If I selected it from this side, you see my arrow's going the wrong way. Why is that the wrong way? Well, this is climb milling, just cutting the inside. So what happens when you select it always assumes you're making a climb mill cut. So you want to determine where you're selecting from. If I have the arrow going like this, it thinks it's cutting this interior out, not the exterior. So then what I would need to do, change some settings to make a conventional mill. You never want a conventional mill when possible. If I select something I don't want, here's my delete button. I'll delete it. So then I'll come back and I'll select over there. So now my arrow is going clockwise around the outside, that is climb milling. Counterclockwise around the inside, that is climb milling. Once I have that selected, I just hit okay. I'm going to go to tool. The book is having us do a 1/2-inch tool. Yeah, we'll leave it at a 1/2-inch tool. We're going to go select the library tool, filter, none, end mill. Okay. We'll run. I'll do 100 SFM. We'll call it 2.5 feet per tooth. Why did it not select my tool? I didn't select the tool. There we go. And my 1/2 inch, so we're doing 100 SFM, 2.5 feet per tooth. There, it's tool number 2. There. We should be good there. We're gonna go next tab. We can skip holder. I don't care about holder. For this instance, it's not a big deal. We're gonna go to cut parameters. Cut parameters is gonna have a lot of information in there for us. I can say what kind of contour type am I doing? 2D, 2D chamfer, ramp, remachining, oscillate. I'm just doing standard 2D. Compensation type, if I leave it on computer, it's gonna go how it was selected, which would be a climb mill, and then it's gonna use the numbers I have in there. I'm not using any cutter comp at the machine. So I cannot adjust my tool size at the machine. If I want to adjust my tool size at the machine, I think I'd use control. Control or wear. Might be wear. You could use either one. Control, I think, is the tool diameter. Wear is how much you want to take off extra or leave on. So there's a little different. If I put it on off, what it would do is cut on the tool center line. So typically we're using off if we're doing engraving. That's tool center line cutting. For this case, we're going to leave it on computer. Next, I can do infinite look ahead. Usually I don't ever have to mess around with this stuff. I don't putz around with it. I can roll corners. I can leave none, all. I just, whatever default is here, I've never really had any true issues with it, so I'll leave that as is. Stock to leave on walls. I'm going to do a roughing pass and a finishing pass, and I'll use the same end mill in this instance. Real world, I would use 2 different end mills. But I want to leave stock on the walls. How much should I leave? You know, it depends on how critical. 2 to 5 thou is typically all I do, sometimes 10. I'll go 5 thou there. If I'm leaving stock on the walls, I should leave stock on the floor as well, right? When that end mill goes in there and it's cutting that wall there, what's happening? That it's trying to push that end mill out. That end mill's technically going through there crooked like that, so your bottom is not technically cutting flat. So we should leave some stock on the floor as well. I'll go 5 there. That should be plenty enough. It's not a huge cut. I'm running the tool pretty quick. It should pull chips. I'm not overly worried about it. Depth of cuts. I'm going to do this in one shot. It's only an 1/8 inch deep. If I were doing an inch deep, I would add depth of cuts, meaning I'm going to limit how much it does per pass. It's going to go around and step down, and that's what depth of cuts does. And what you can do is you can do whatever you want in there, and then you can, if you want to finish pass, only to cut off like the bottom 5, you know, the last 5 thousandths, do a finish pass, which is almost a spring pass. You can even throw spring passes in here as well. But for this instance, I'm not going to do any depth of cuts. Lead in, lead out. This is a big thing, and I will dock you for really bad lead in, lead outs. Right now, I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to do anything. Typically, when I program, I'll leave it the first time and I'll see what it does. A lot of programming is don't do too much, do enough to get it running so you can see the path, then you go and tweak your path. If you try to make all of your changes right off the bat, sometimes you mess up. You don't know what the heck you changed, why it won't work, and you end up deleting it and starting over. Just get the path working, and then you can tweak the path after the fact. And that's what I'm going to do. Multi-passes, we're not doing anything here. I think in lesson 5 we will. We're going to jump right down to linking parameters. I'll do my clearance. I'm going to change everything absolute here. Absolute, absolute, absolute. I'm going to take this retract off. It has a clearance, a retract, and a feed plane. I can use a clearance and a feed plane or a retract and a feed plane. I don't need both. Completely, I don't need clearance, retract, and feed plane, I should say. Completely unnecessary. Yeah, not completely. If you're stepping over stuff, sometimes you may want to do that. Feed plane, I'll go back to 0.1. I'll do my clearance. In this case, it's only one operation, but I'll still do only at start and end of operation. Top of stock is 0. I am cutting minus 0.125 deep. We're going to go straight down to coolant. I don't need to do anything with home reference positions, arc planes. I'm going to go right to coolant. Coolant on. Okay. And that shows me my path. You can see my linear arc, or my linear lead, arc lead in. It's going to come around, arc out, linear out. Well, I don't like that, so I'm going to change that. But you can see the toolpath don't look horrible otherwise. So I am not a big believer, and if I were to single step it through, you can see what it's going to do. It arcs in onto the center, come around, and arc off of the edge. I am not a big believer of doing that. And the reason is personal experience. I don't care how good your machine is, where it steps from on to off, you're going to have a divot, and there's most likely going to be a height change. You know, especially if you got an older, sloppier machine, it could be up to a thou or a half a thou. So I am not a big fan of doing that. So I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to go back into my parameters. Let me close that up. I'm going to go back into my parameters like so. I'm going to go lead in, lead out. Well, I don't want to be on the center. I want to kind of start at the end over here. So if you look up here, it says enter, exit at midpoint of closed contours. I'll turn that off. If I just turn that off, well, that's getting better, right? It's coming in at that tangency point there, the arc and the line. I think I can still make that better. This is a wasted pass. This is a wasted pass. The arc's a bit much. I can make that better. Go back into parameters. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get rid of my arc. So right here, my arc on my, this is entry. I'm just going to go 0 there. And let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. That's much better. It's starting here, but is that good? Why not? Why are you shaking your head no? Oh, right there. There's my lead off right there. Or lead on, I should say. My lead off, I'll come back and tweak out. I'm just looking at my lead on. Is my lead on good? Who says it's good? Who says it's not good? Why is it not good? Huh? How do you know? Well, when you do this, back plot is your best friend. Hit back plot. Oh, look at that. If I leave it right there, I'm going to plunge right onto my part. So maybe I need to extend my lead in a little bit. So I'll come in, we'll just try 125, see what happens. That'd be 625 in length. Let's go 150. You see, I'm close. That's a little too close for my liking. So we'll kick it 150. All right, 135 would be good enough, but I want to give it a little, but I don't want to give it too much. If I went 200, it's a bit excessive. I've seen people go like 500. You're starting to have, 2 inches off the part, cutting air. I'll dock you points for that. Okay. We're trying to teach you the best efficient way to do something. So, I mean, if you're starting 2 inches off the part and feeding it, cutting air, your boss walks by, what do you think they're going to say? That's a waste of time. You're costing me money. You're fired. So my lead in looks pretty okay. Let's deal with the lead out. Still a lot of wasted air there. I don't need this vertical line there, so I'm just going to get rid of this length. I do, however, like the big arc, but I don't need it to arc 90 degrees. I don't need a 90-degree sweep on that arc. So right here is my sweep. You'll see a lot of times people will put a smaller radius in there, and I'll show you an example of that. If I go 50%. It makes it much sharper, and I don't like that. I like a more gentle sweep, gentle lead off. So I'm going to leave my arc at 100, and sometimes I've even put 200. What I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust my sweep angle. I'll try 45 degrees and see what happens. Oh, that looks better. Looks much better. Let's back plot this bad boy out and see what happens. I want to see if it fully comes off the part. Probably got to extend it a little bit. We'll go 60 degrees to get a little bit further off the part. And there is no magic number. Well, there kind of is. That's the wrong one. I wanted to do back plot. Come on. I wanted to do back plot there. Well, I already did this. So if I come through and I single stepper through, I get enough off the part there. And I don't have to be technically 100% off the part. Well, I want to be close to 100%. I need to be off the part there, and that's it. So I think that should be okay. I'm off the part. I got enough clearance there. Let me do a quick save. Let me do a full verification on her. We come through. We're doing the holes. They looked okay. I already proofed that out, so I'm just going to hit the fast forward there. Now I'll come through. And this is how exactly what I'm doing here is how I grade your stuff. I will start single stepping things through. And if when that plunges down, it's hitting material, guess what? You're losing points. Done. I did forget one thing. We're going to go back into our parameters. We're going to go back into our tool. My plunge is at 6 inches a minute. How fast should I plunge this down? I'm going to go 100 inches a minute. I ain't plunging on the part, right? Why do I need to plunge so damn slow? I'm plunging in the air. Theoretically, literally, I'm going to plunge in the air. So let's get that tool down there. And then this thing right here, this is key. See where it says rapid retract? If I don't select that, it's going to retract at 6 inches a minute. And like I said, this is only 125 deep. It's not that big of a deal. But when you're like an inch down and you see that tool slowly lifting out of there, it just drives you nuts. It's like, holy crap, let's go. Make sure we select rapid retract. When it's done, it's gonna get out of there as quick as it can. You don't see any changes here, but there is a change. If I were to go back and leave this at, what was it, 6.41. Actually, it's not really gonna show. That doesn't really show so much. I'll say we can look at the time, but it's not gonna show all that much in there. So I have it all set up. I'm gonna do a full verification. And I can do this with verification or backplot. If I do backplot, I expand the gallery here. I have information here. It says it's gonna be about 33.95 second feed, 2.5 second wrap at a total of less than 40 seconds to run this part. That's everything. It's not, drilling stuff is not accurate, especially when you pack drill. You do not get accurate numbers there. In my verification, it says over here, tell me about the same thing, 38 seconds. The drilling cycle is going to be a minute itself, easily, maybe 2 minutes because of the peck. So it does not accurately show the pecking. There you go. That is mill lesson 4. Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we got to do we did a roughing pass there. We got to do a finish pass there. So to do a finish pass, I can go back and contour it. Or if you're lazy like me, you see how I just have the check mark there? I just have the check mark there. So the only one, that one is selected. I can either right click, copy, paste, or else I can go Control C, Control V. It'll copy and paste that path right down. I'm using the same tool in this case, so it doesn't matter. Even if I wasn't using the same tool, I'd do it the exact same way. Once I have my finished pass set here, I'm just going to go in there, and there's really only, if I want to change feeds and speeds, I could. I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave my stock on, take the stock to leave on walls and floors off, change that to 0. Hit OK. Go ahead and verify it again. There's my drilling, looks good. There's my first roughing pass, looks good. Now it's going to come back for my finish pass. All good. That is complete. Any questions, comments, concerns? They do not. I was just debating if I'm going to show you chamfering on this one, or should I show you chamfering on the next one, or should I show you chamfering on both? What do you guys want to do? Chamfering on one or all? You want to chamfer on this one? Okay, all right. Good deal. So they don't do any chamfers. If I were going to do a chamfer, though, on this, I'm going to actually, I expanded my gallery here after 2. I'm going to come up to this little arrow here. And I'm going to push this up. I'm going to push my cursor up before my finished pass. Because I'm going to chamfer before my finished pass, not after. Okay, when you chamfer, sometimes you roll a burr. So if I roll a burr and then I cut my finished pass, it'll get rid of that burr. So we're going to create, I think we're going to actually start out with a drill tool path here. Yes. That's what I'm doing. You see how it's between the second and third operation? The second operation is my first end mill. Third operation is my last end mill.
The first one is packing, the second one is the roughing, the third one.
Operation 1 is a peck drill. Operation 2 is a roughing pass. Operation 3, as of right now, is my finish pass. I'm going to create a new operation between 2 and 3. When I'm done with a thing, I close it up. I don't leave it open. I don't like to leave it open. I like to close it up. So is that what was confusing you? Because typically I'd use a different tool for finishing. But like I said, even if in this case, even if I'm not, I want to chamfer before I finish. Because when you chamfer, you're gonna roll a burr. So if I cut a chamfer and then I go back and finish, I'm not gonna end up with a burr on those walls. Does that make sense? And this is just personal experience that I've, things I've done over the years that I've found work best for me. So I'm creating a new operation. I'm creating a new operation 3 here. I'm gonna start out drill though. I'm gonna go drill. I'm gonna select my 4. Cause I want to do a chamfer there too, because that's stupid. Not having a chamfer there. We'll select those 4 arc center points. Okay. My tool. I'm gonna select a spot drill. None. See if they got a 3/8 spot drill. Yep, we'll grab a 3/8 spot drill there. For the drilled holes, go 2,500 for the RPM. 3,000. I want 2,500 RPM, 30 feet right there for the drilled holes. Yeah, that should work. I can live with that. We're gonna go right down to cut parameters. I'm gonna make this drill counter bore. I'll even put a half a second dwell on there. I don't need to, but I will, just because I can. Looks pretty okay. We're gonna go straight down to linking parameters. For my depth, I'm just gonna use the calculator right off the bat. I want a finish diameter of 0.281. And I want to overwrite the depth. Because I think it had a previous depth in there. Hit OK. Oh, it's an 1/8 inch hole. You're right. I was thinking it was a 1/4 inch. We'll go 156 then. So that'd be 109. And if I would have done it, who cares? I could have, once I verify it, I'm going to see that that's screwed up. I can go back in and fix it. Yes. I didn't do anything in the tooltip diameter. What I just did. What did I just do there?
When I did that, I got 78 from.
Give me 1 second. I don't know what the heck I did there. I've seen that before. Spot drill, what did I say, 35?
25.
Oh, I'm putting it in the wrong place. Duh, that's why. 0.156 there. Overwrite depth, okay. So 78 down. Well, I'll leave it like that. Turn your coolant should already be on because I already did a drill path. I just hit okay, take a look at it. Let's do a quick verification. I know something's wrong with it. I can see something's wrong with it. Anybody know what's wrong with it? Exactly. I left the tip comp on, so what it wants to do is blast through there. So I need to take my tip comp off, come back. If you end up with a X there, meaning it's a dirty operation, just select this icon right up here, regenerate all dirty. Somebody had that last week. Is that you? Come through, do a quick verify. That'll tell you really quick if you screw up. If it looks like junk in your verification, well, it's a bad thing. So that looks good. I'm decent with that chamfer. Okay. I'm going to collapse that. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another contour toolpath. Yeah, we'll do that. I'm going to do a contour toolpath. I'm going to select the same place that I did before, right there. Go okay. tool, I'm gonna use the same tool. I'm gonna use my 3/8 spot drill. We're figuring it's if we go in there and look at it. If I edit the tool, it's a 90-degree spot drill. So. In here. The plunge rate of 100. Feed rate of 50. Yeah, I can live with that. That's not horrible. Cut parameters. I don't need to change anything here, but contour type. See where it says contour type? When I expand this gallery, I have a 2D chamfer. That's what I'm going to use. Right now it says chamfer width of 100, bottom offset 100. Offset's good. Some of this is trial and error. I'm going to go 32. We'll see what happens. We'll see what it's going to do. Depth of cuts, nothing. Lead in, lead out. I'm going to leave exactly what it was. I'm going to come right down to linking parameters. And I don't need to change anything here. I am not going to put a depth in here. I want my depth to be at 0 because we're doing that with our cut parameters up here. So once you and again, this is a trial and error thing. You see where I'm leading in, leading out looks okay. I can live with that. If I do a full verification, drill, rough, spot, and now I'll come through and I see a change I got to make right off the bat. I'm dragging on the bottom. Turn the wireframe off. I'm dragging on the bottom and the chamfer is a bit excessive. So I'm going to come back in here and I'll kick this up to 50 and we'll see what that looks like. Looks better, except I got to kick the 32 down now. So I'm not dragging on the bottom. We'll change the, instead of 32, we'll go 15. So we have our drill, our rough, our spot. That's a pretty good looking chamfer to me. And then our finish. When I did my finish, I made the chamfer a bit smaller. Maybe I could have left it at 30 or a little bit larger, but I got a chamfer there. I'm good with that. I'm happy. And that's it. Done. And if you, so like the chamfer for if you're using a spot drill like this to create your chamfers, the chamfer for the hole and the chamfer on the outside, what I try to do in my control here, or on Mastercam here, I should say, is I try to get them to look identical, about the same size. And then what I can do with the controller, if I'm seeing, maybe I want a little deeper, maybe I want a little bit less, I can actually tweak the tool height at the control and it'll control both of them. It's hard to discriminate between the two. You can't really discriminate between the two unless you go into that specific operation, which isn't that hard either. It's a single one there. That's it. Any questions, comments, concerns, and or complaints? We can, you don't have to. You guys all know how to post a code yet? Anybody not know how to post a code? When you post a code, I think the next assignment's you're gonna have to post as well. I want to see the A0 decimal point gone, and don't leave a hanging decimal. If when you do that, class is this Mastercam. If when you go to delete, you leave that hanging decimal there, that's going to throw an error at the machine. So don't do that. Yes, I think the last one I did was like 15. Probably 20 would be a little bit better. And I don't think this, the post here won't show up on the YouTube, but that's fine. Everybody good? Any other questions? Yes. In your parameters, when you go in your parameters under tool, you can actually put your comments right there. You can put comments there. Or you should actually, if I kind of slow click on it, I can type in what I want there as well. So. Any other questions? You gotta speak louder.
It's fine if we leave the secret somewhere, like, we wait, 80. Like that,
What sequence number?
like, right now.
That don't matter. Yeah. That's not gonna hurt you. Anything else? No? All good? All right, I'm gonna end this recording. This is going to be the end of mill lesson 4. When we come back, we're gonna do mill lesson 5.